And it is go time. So we are here. Welcome back. Good day, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. We are about to get it in. We are talking about Aston Martin. And I will tell you, this topic is not extremely important to me given the person who it is. And it's not the same, right? Let's just keep it real. It's not the same as if we were talking about some other historical teams that we know have been in financial trouble, unable to drastically compete in a Formula One season, and then find themselves being bought out by energy drink company by the name of Red Bull because Ford couldn't stay in here with Jaguar, and then Minardi couldn't stay in, and now we have an acquisition of teams that were just poorly funded. This is not that. This is something very different. What's up, the Leon son? What's up, Wildcat, Incredible Facts Quest, and Miss Dino in the super chat? Big shout out to my brother Galactus. We might have something coming soon for y'all. Me and Galactus might have something soon coming for y'all, but we'll wait on that. We're trying to make something happen. But this is different. This is largely different because of who the person is and what they've accomplished in their life, in their business, professional life. Lawrence Stroll is no chump. He is a fucking billionaire. And he has managed to make a lot of good business decisions, except for a couple, which we're going to talk about. And those are very important. And I think those decisions that we will talk about post this information are more important than this money and this buyout or this sale of the stake in the Formula One team by Aston Martin. Now, this is what I'm going to say. All right. First, I'm going to say that you should know that car manufacturers get into the sport of Formula One to be seen. This is why they're here. They're here to be seen. And when you're a car manufacturer, to me, it's a double-edged sword. You should know, because we've talked about it here, Red Bull got into Formula One for various reasons, but one of the key reasons is it was cheaper for them marketing-wise to own, operate, and fund a Formula One team than it was to buy a plethora of campaign, ad, commercial, marketing locations and spots for them to advertise their product. This was a better, cooler way to do it, and we know Red Bull is about doing cool things in extreme sports. So that's why they did it. But when it comes to a car, when it comes to you being a car manufacturer, it's a double-edged sword, okay? Because one, you need to understand that if you perform poorly, that impacts the way performance enthusiasts, supercar enthusiasts view your product. Nobody wants to be associated with losers. We don't mind helping people that are losing, but you don't want to be associated with being part of a losing campaign. You don't want to know that, damn, this is a performance car. They suck in motorsports. Do you really want to buy that car? No. And so Aston Martin, to me, was already kind of floundering about when it comes to, I mean, don't get it wrong. A DB7 Vanquish 12, I absolutely enjoy the performance, audible exhaust profile of those cars. I like the body shape and ingenuity in these cars, but let's not get it twisted. It's not a Ferrari. It's not even a Lamborghini. It's not a Pagani Zonda. It's not. It's not a Hennessy GT Venom. It's not. It's just not these cars. It's not a damn Koenigsegg Angara. It's not these cars. When you think about Aston, you're not thinking about extreme supercar exotic performance, although it is exotic. Okay, I know we have the Valkyrie, but let's just keep it real. The Valkyrie is still not even really looked at as that. It's just, you have to consider your market. And I think Aston Martin's market is more of luxury sport. Aston Martin is a luxury looking vehicle with true car performance. Okay, and until you start getting into the Valhalla and you start getting into the Valkyries and you start getting into the Valars and the Valiants, you start getting into all these cars that damn near some of them pretty much like prototype cars. They don't even exist for you to even buy them. Was it really that beneficial for Aston Martin to get into Formula One? In my opinion, at what, 4.6%? Maybe, but would they have done just as well without getting in Formula One and probably ran a couple of commercials or participated in some lower series or something like that? Probably so. But let's take a look at some things, because financially, there is a situation at Aston Martin. Lawrence Stroll is at the helm of that. And if we look at the stock market when it comes to Aston Martin, we're talking about 34% drop year to date. 34% drop. Okay? 34%. Closed and opened at 115, closed at 119 to now. You can buy a share of Aston Martin for $70. You can get yourself a share of Aston Martin for around $70, whereas it was before, back in February, you'd have to pay $113 to get yourself a share of Aston Martin. Now, drastically decreasing, under $70. And I would think that likely, well, today is the 6th. We look at the one-day chart. You thinking things are good. This is why when you look at stock, you got to look at like a bigger picture. Like if you're going in for the long haul, you got to look at a bigger picture. Right now, you're thinking like, green, this is good. This is a one-day chart. If you're going to be doing this, you're a day trader. Like you're looking for gaps, you're looking for momentum, you're looking for entries to get in and out, right? But this is not great for a long-term hold. We got Galactus in the super chat says Aston Martin is just the James Bond car. True, right? The movie. You would have been better off just doing that, keeping your car in James Bond or other like movies and advertising that way. That would have been a better thing. But if you're talking about the long game, which is what Aston Martin needs to be beneficial for the sport of Formula One, you start getting into a bigger picture 1 month, you start getting into 6 months, you start getting a year, and in a full year, you've got a consistent downward trend from $169, then down again to a plateau of 119, and here it is, they're steadily dropping. So they're steadily dropping here. This is a downward trend. You want to go to a 5-year chart? That's a bigger drop. You're talking about 2021, $682. Massive drop here. Massive. They've been losing money. Aston Martin, as a production company of vehicles, has been losing money. Why is it now so much important that they're losing more money? Well, that's because the sales aren't going good. It's not going good. Why is it not going good? I can tell you right now, it's not going good because a lot of dumb bigot people, or people that had an agenda for other than improving this country, thought it was a fancy, great idea to vote Donald Trump in office. And one of the selling points for Donald Trump was, we're going to charge these companies, we're going to charge these manufacturers money to import goods into our country. They're going to have to pay us for it. Yeah, you believe that shit. You believe that. The cost of business, anytime you make a product, if you're going to make these earbuds, and it costs you to make this case. It costs you for the technology for the charging system. It costs you for the technology of the ergonomics in here. It costs you for the technology and marketing. You incorporate all that into the price of manufacturing, and you charge whatever it is for the company plus your markup for profit. Donald Trump didn't do shit for us when it came to that. What he did was make it more expensive for us to buy products. And when Aston Martin, when you look at their earnings sheet right here, compare 2025 Q2 to 2024 Q2, 8% drop. There's an 8% drop in there. That's not a good situation. When you talk about the first half of 2024 to 2025, 4%. When you talk about the revenue, there's a 34% drop from Q2 in 24 to Q2 this year. There's a 54% drop from Q2 of 24 to Q2 of 25 in gross margin. And let's not even get on the earnings before interest and taxes. 33% drop there. And if you go down and you look at their reasoning, when you start looking at the earnings sheet for the meeting, if you're part of Aston Martin and you've got some stock in Aston Martin, you'll get a confirmation and a notification to say, hey, we're going to have a meeting. We're going to go over earnings. We're going to go over things of reasons of why we're here. And so when you look at this, they clearly identify one of their key indicators for their lack of performance is right here. The evolving and disruptive U.S. tariff situation was unhelpful to our operations in Q2. We adjusted production and limited imports through April and May while awaiting confirmation of trade agreements between the UK and the US, leveraging exiting inventory held by our US dealers in that period. They're telling you tariffs killed it. And they killed it because therefore the same unit before these tariffs came about, which could have been thousands of dollars cheaper for the American public, is now thousands of dollars more expensive for the American consumer, which is working in a country that products of groceries and their day-to-day living costs have spiked, but the price of them, or the price of earnings, has not increased. Minimum wage did not increase. Their paychecks did not increase. Their wages, as far as getting raises, you talk about maybe 3%, probably less. So while your president has applied these tariffs by telling you shenanigans of, we as Aston Martin are going to pay your country more money, and then your president is going to take the money that we're paying your country to bring our product into your country and then help embellish and improve your country. He lied to you. He lied to you the way economics truly work. They charged us the tariffs, and then we applied it to the cost per unit of the car. And once you decided to buy our car, you pretty much paid the tariffs. And because of that being the case, cars are not selling. And Aston Martin, finding themselves in a financial bind, said, you know what? We're gonna move some money around. Pretty much that's really what happened. We're just moving money around. They're owned by Lawrence Stroll. These companies are owned by Lawrence Stroll, okay? So it's not like Aston Martin's about to go out of business. It's not like Aston Martin itself as a team on the grid are about to leave Formula One. And what's even more funny is I think another one of Lawrence Stroll's companies picked up this hat. I think it's Yawtree, which is another consortium, another business of Lawrence Stroll. All right, so it's just moving money around for paper, moving money around to this company because it's financially suffering some impact. This company's not. We're going to sell that off. But what's even more funny is this, people. While Aston Martin has managed to sell off its stake of the Formula One team, the name Aston Martin is still going to be on the car. The name Aston Martin is still going to be on the car. So while Aston Martin has sold it off, Aston Martin's name is going to remain on the car, which is kind of crazy to me, right? It makes it seem really funny, like it doesn't matter. That's how much in-house it is. Incredible Facts question. The super chat says, you said you like to poorly educate. You said you like to poorly educate. Hey man, what the hell are you talking about? Incredible Facts quest. I don't like to poorly educate. What are you saying? I know you got to be saying something funny right there. I know it's got to be in regards to some funny shit that's been said here, but Aston Martin's name's still going to be on the car, while Aston Martin has sold off their stake in Formula One. It's kind of funny. Why is the name not changing? Because it's Lawrence Stroll, and he could do what the hell he wants to do. All right? He could do what he wants to do. Now, let me tell you what's more important. What's more important than this whole minute, what is the 4.6% sale of Aston Martin? Was it like 4.6? Or what was the stake? I think it was like 4.6. It was like 4-something%. It wasn't a very big stake at all as far as when it came to Aston Martin selling it off. It was enough money for them to, take 140 something plus $1 million or whatever the case may be, over to Aston Martin. And of course, now they won't have to, on paper, be responsible for the financial upkeep or giving into the participating and competing in Formula One, they can alleviate that outflow. Now, whatever else is going to happen is going to happen. But more important decisions need to be made at Aston Martin. Let's just keep that a buck. Let's keep it a buck. More important decisions are needed to be made at Aston Martin. We got a super chat from the Leon Son says, Jay, I like what Trump is doing because he is forcing black nation to look at another avenue to make money. That is very true. That is very true, right? In the face of adversity, you're faced to find new ways to survive and live. That's true. Also, it forces black people to be smart. And that's also true. And that's also something that they've, not to get too political here on the channel, but the Leon Son brings up a very good point. And that's something else they've been combating, right? They've been combating the minority and smaller businesses that have generated and made money. They've been combating the population of people that have involved and invested into now the stock market to find ways to make millions. We've had an influx of millionaires created throughout the COVID era by finding different ways to make money because you just couldn't go into work at that time. That's a very good point. Incredible Fast Quest says, sorry, I'm trying to load this plane. Bro, you good. But Donald Trump did say that he likes the poorly educated. That's 100% true. He definitely likes the ignorant, poorly uneducated people because he can say these things and they take it for full face value and they never do any research. You're absolutely correct. He got there because of that. You're absolutely correct. Incredible Facts Quest. And be careful loading that plane. I don't want any OSHA or FAA situations going on with you, brother. I want you to be safe. But yeah, this is true. So let's talk about real decisions. These are real decisions. So let me not say these are not real decisions. Let's talk about more important decisions that actually will impact Aston Martin or Lawrence Stroll's team going into this season and going forward into 2026. And you want to know the first one? What's up, Baraka? You just missed a little bit of economic talk and, talking about some charts and some stock market situations and Aston Martin and falling. I just give you a little preview and we went over the earnings sheet. You just missed a little bit of that, but you ain't missed much, brother. You fam. Every time you come in, you welcomed in. But I'm going to tell you, let's talk about the decision of these drivers, because that's more important to me. I know people are raving about this, and I really said on it because I'm like, it's really not that important to me because I already know it's Lawrence Stroll owns this, Lawrence Stroll owns that, shifting money around. Okay, they're not selling. They're still keeping the name of the car. But what's more important here is let's make critical decisions to get the driver lineup right. If we're making critical decisions to find a way to salvage Aston Martin as a car production company and find a way to extract hundreds of millions of dollars out and save hundreds of millions of dollars going out, can we please make critical decisions about the driver lineup? I've already told you all, I do respect Lawrence Stroll's acumen for being a good businessman. The price or the evaluation of Aston Martin has just went crazy since he purchased. It has. And he's a good businessman, but he's not making a good business decision when it comes to his son being in the seat. He's not making a good competitive decision. And I'm just going to keep it a buck. Although your financial endeavors may enable you to keep a Formula One team afloat, your competitiveness in this sport is highly important to how you look and what damn makes sense to your board, or should we still be here? What damn sense does it make? Because we can afford it, we just stay in a sport in which we can't compete in because you want to choose to let your son keep driving Formula One cars. Because essentially that's it, right? He wants to enable his son to drive Formula One cars. That's what Lawrence Stroll is doing by way of Lance Stroll. And that needs to stop. That's a more important decision for us right now. Putting somebody in a seat that's pretty much just going to waste. And true, Aston Martin showed a bit of competitiveness this past weekend, right? In qualifying and free practice, things looked a little different. And now here it comes in the race. We got the race coming up. And what did we see in the race? We were all kind of shocked to see that Aston Martin had 2 cars in the points. 5 and 7, not even at the last spot. 5 and 7. Like, whoa, what's going on there? Is this the Adrian Newey impact? Is this Aston Martin a small salt, pepper glimpse of how they're going to be maybe coming into form going into 2026? Pump your brakes. Not too fast, not too quick. Let's give it some time to marinate, develop, and, see what happens. But what is important is, how are you going to use this money? I've said it several times before. Somebody can have an abundant amount of money and not know what the hell to really do with it, right? Some people that came into money didn't come into money because all of their decisions and their deals and their acumen for whatever industry they exist in. Lawrence Stroll did. Lance Stroll didn't. Lawrence Stroll did. But still, with everything that Lawrence Stroll is doing, which seems very Jerry-esque, right? Jerry-esque, Cowboys-esque, big splash. New facility, state of the art, big splash. We're going to get Honda, the championship power unit developed team that got Red Bull there where they were, big splash. Honda power unit, big splash. We're not going to be a customer team anymore. We're going to be a works team, big splash. Oh yeah, the guy who designed the championship cars for more than Red Bull and other teams, we got him coming in, big splash. Coming the season, no championship. I need to see, is Lawrence Stroll going to be able to make the decisions, put the money to good use to make a championship team? Because when you do all of this, I don't know if you've all ever heard the term Super Bowl or bust, but when watching NFL football fans, we call Super Bowl or bust, right? If a team makes a big acquisition, you got at least 1 or 2 stars in the offensive side, 1 or 2 stars on the defensive side. You got first-round draft pick that came in out of college as a 5-star recruit and now Heisman Trophy winner. You got a coach that is supposed to be Hall of Fame or a great lead coach. We say, if you've got all of that, it's Super Bowl or bust. If you can't have all of these parts that are high profile, shiny performing parts and manage to configure them in such a way that it results in a championship, then damn it, you don't know what the hell you're doing. So now it's Lawrence Stroll. It's driver championship, constructor championship, or bust. And your bottleneck of acquiring all of those shiny parts might be your driver lineup. Alonso, let's just keep it a buck. There should be high tide a campaign for him to retire, aside from Lewis Hamilton retire. And before you campaign for Alonso to retire, you should campaign for Nico Hulkenberg to retire. It could go in line. But the point is, your driver lineup's where your problem is, because Lance Stroll is not it. You got Felipe Drugovich sitting in your garage day in, day out, and you haven't used him. He's an F2 champion. You haven't used him. Personal decisions have been and likely will be your downfall. And Lawrence, I'm going to tell you this. If you have to do all of this to try to overcome that and it doesn't work, you look foolish. You're going to go down as one of the worst led teams that had the best opportunity, kind of like the Cleveland Browns one season, right? They had a plethora of arsenal offensive weapons on the side of the ball where it was like, on paper, this shit should be dope. In real time at the games, the front office sucks. The front office sucks. They suck today. They suck now with the whole Shedeur situation. The front office of the Cleveland Browns is so bad, and Lawrence Stroll needs to pay attention to this. They don't want to admit we may have made a mistake. We thought that, we were going to teach this guy a lesson, draft him as low as we could to impact his market value. And now he's coming into camp with less opportunity and doing more. We're giving him less reps We're making him practice with the twos. He's going against the the ones defense, and he's doing better than Gabriel. He's doing better than Flacco. He's doing better than Kenny Pickett small hands, and he's the 5th round pick. The front office is so bad they can't say, you know what, we made a mistake, put him on the first team, and let's run that out. Because technically, he's getting less, but he's doing more. Well, Aston Martin is doing a shit ton, and they're getting less. It's time to it's time to bench Lance Stroll, man. It's time to bench small hand Kenny Pickett. It's time to bench Lance Stroll, bring Felipe up, put him in the car, and let's see what's going to happen. And let's stop acting like you don't have the opportunity to do so. Can we not do that? You clearly have the opportunity to do so. Because as it sits right now, your drivers are next to each other 11th and 12th in a 20 drivers championship. Well, technically got 21 drivers, but I'm just saying the only top 20 really matter. The last driver there is literally Jack Doohan, and the only 2 drivers to have no points is Alpine altogether. But your drivers are 11th and 12th. There's no reason for you not to allow Felipe Drugovich to get some time in his car to really see what you got in him. But you want to know why he's not going to do it? Because he doesn't want to answer those questions. Lawrence Stroll doesn't want to put himself in a situation where he has to then be forced by public viewing, by talking heads, by journalists, by sports commentators, and possibly by internal eruption, that if you put Felipe in that car for the remainder of the season or even a few race events, and he drastically outperforms Lance Stroll and his tick for tack are better than that with Alonso, you are going to have to make that decision that you obviously don't want to make for personal reasons. These decisions are more important right now for Aston Martin than what everybody else is talking about in regards to this internal sale of the stake of Aston Martin Formula One team. I'm very intrigued and interested about everything Aston Martin is building into. I'm just a little bit reserved on how exciting it can be because your driver lineup is meh. It's meh. It really is. It's meh. So could Lance Stroll out of nowhere just show up with this superstardom? All of a sudden, I'm the best driver because I got a... No, I doubt it. In a better car, he'll always trail Alonso. In a better car, he's going to make these mistakes that or have these drives that are just not going to equate to what the car is capable of. At that point in time, it's the car that is being held back by the driver. To me, that's just what it's going to be. Okay? Lance Stroll finished 13th last season while Alonso was in the top 10 driver championship standings. Okay? That was last season. And you want to talk about 2023 when they had their most surprising performance and Alonso got 8 podiums. He was 4th in the drivers championship while Lance Stroll was 10th. Lance Stroll is a problem that needs to be dealt with. Let's stop doing this, but I don't think it's ever going to stop. And I guess if you do something enough times, eventually you're hoping you'll have the opportunity to say, I told you so. If that's what Lawrence Stroll is waiting on, well, shit, bro. You're sure risking a lot to hope that opportunity ever happens. You're really risking a lot to hope that you'll be able to say, I told you my son was a champion. I mean, last time your son was a champion, it was in F3 European. Not even F2. It was F3. Last time your son was a champion was in F3. You waiting. You keep on waiting, Lawrence. You keep on waiting for that. You keep on holding that. You keep on holding that rabbit's foot in your pocket, hoping that one day you're gonna be able to grab it and say, I knew one day that rabbit's foot was gonna come in handy, son. I knew it. You was gonna be a champion, and you are. You keep waiting for that. Meanwhile, you got an F2 champion in your garage who is a more recent champion and a more closer F series than your son was. And I don't know what's going to happen if you lose Felipe. Well, I guess what's going to happen is what's been happening. Shit, nothing. Nothing's going to happen. Same shit that's been happening while they got Felipe and not using him. That's my own question. It's just nothing here. But yeah, people, this is how I feel about Aston Martin. I would hope. I mean, let's just keep it real. Aston Martin is a very interesting team going into 2026. Probably, I'm going to keep it real, probably the most interesting team on the grid going into 2026. We're going to get to see how they do with the new regulations. We're going to get to see how Adrian Newey is going to impact this team. We're going to get to see a team transform from a customer team to a works team. We're going to get to see how they're going to get along with Honda and what kind of changes Honda are going to bring, and if they're going to kind of campaign for one of their drivers to be involved in Aston Martin. We're going to get to see all of these things, the new facilities, how they're going to be. Aston Martin, to me, is the most interesting team going into 2026. By far, of different aspects to look into and see how are they going to manage all of this. There's no other team on the grid that is going to be handling that many variables and then see how competitive they're going to be. And of course, the new teams are the new teams. We're going to see that, but we're talking about a team right now existing and transforming into something different. It's completely Aston Martin. And I'm going to be there for it all. I'm going to be there for it all. So we'll see what happens. So big shout out. Let me know what you think below in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about Aston Martin. Let me know how you think they're going to do. Let me know how you feel about Aston Martin still having their name on a car that technically they're not even invested in going forward. And then more than that, let me know who's your most interesting team going forward into 2026. Aston Martin's the team I'm most interested in watching to see how they handle everything. I have several other teams that are interesting, but they're the most interesting because all the variables they have that they're going to have to handle. And then we will be having a grudge race soon. It seems like the drivers have agreed on Spa. I will be showing the raffle wheel for the Topps Chrome 2024 Formula One cards. And we will have that wheel spin coming up soon to see who's going to be the first person eligible to claim that prize. Remember, you got to have a small amount of time, not a small amount, 2 days or the next time I go live to reach out to me and claim it, or else I'm spinning for somebody else. So big shout out to everybody pulling up for the live chat. Remember, stay healthy, drink water, and don't lose out. And you know what? You never know what can be with Aston Martin. We're out of here. Peace and love.